Okay, next up in the Aurora 9 series is the model menu. Alright, so that's basically this large button over here. You press that, you go into the model menu, and you've got all your settings for setting up your model. Realize there's 2 pages, okay, when you see that a block up top. Alright, so the first one in the menu is reverse. Pretty straightforward. You come in here, and this sets whether your servos are reversed or not. So aileron, if you move the aileron stick and the servo is going a different direction than you want it to go, you simply touch this, hit reverse. Are you sure? Yes, and it changes it to reverse. So if you want to change throttle, for instance, and reverse it, reverse, yes, reverse. All right, so I'm just going to set these back to normal for now. Whoops. Normal, yes. Normal, yes. This way when I'm going through videos, I'm not messed up. So that's servo reversing. Pretty straightforward. Alright, sub-trim menu, once again, is pretty straightforward. Sub-trim menu is when you're setting up something. It is not like trim on your radio. It's sub-trim. So I'm just going to hit on this for a minute. When you set up a helicopter or airplane, you set for your maximum servo travel. Alright, so this way when you move your stick, you never go past these 2 points. But let's say your aileron or whatever, or your helicopter's drifting, or a servo arm's not 90 when you're setting up a helicopter. You can use sub-trim to change that. Now, what that does is, unlike trim, okay, when I hit a trim button, what I'm doing is I'm moving the servo inside my endpoints. All right, so this means if I trim way over, then when I move that servo, I only have a little bit of movement here, and I've got a bunch of movement of the stick here. All right, that's what trim does. It moves within your endpoints. Sub-trim moves the window. All right, so when I sub-trim to get a servo arm 90 or an aileron or whatever level, and I sub-trim over, it moves this window. All right, that way you're still centered within your endpoints. All right, so that's what sub-trim does. Pretty straightforward here. If I'm setting up a heli and my aileron servo's not 90 and I want it 90, then I can just simply add negative sub-trim, which moves servo one way, or positive sub-trim, which moves the servo the other way. Reset sets it back to 0. Pretty straightforward. That's what sub-trim does. It does it on all of these servos. Realize, even on a CCPM helicopter where all 3 servos are moving together, sub-trim moves each individual servo. It doesn't work together in a mix, okay? So this always works on the channel. Again, I could have gone in, if you remember, I could have changed this to pitch. This would now say pitch. As a matter of fact, I'm going to digress. I am actually going to go into the system menu, and I'm going to pick channel, and I'm going to change this to pitch. All right, select. I'm going to hit pitch. Okay, I'm going to hit set. Okay, now pitch, still on J3, which I want. I want this to be throttle now because we don't want to waste that, so we just moved the 2 channels around. Alright, so now pitch is over here. So let's go back to our sub-trim menu now, because since I was showing this in another video, it would be cool to show. Sub-trim. Now look, J3, which is the output of the J3 channel, is pitch now, the pitch servo, and now I can sub-trim it here. Alright, so when I change that, it's going to change channel 3 output. So the reason I digressed on this is back in your settings in the system menu, depending on what controls what on the channel will also what shows up in your sub-trim menu. Make sense? Okay. Pretty straightforward on sub-trim. Alright, so with that, we just covered reverse and sub-trim. We'll continue on with the rest of the model menu.